Have you ever wished you could just stop thinking? You finally finish work. You lie down in bed. Everything around you is quiet. But your mind isn't. It jumps from tomorrow's meeting to something embarrassing you said 5 years ago, to a conversation that hasn't even happened yet. It feels exhausting. And eventually, you start believing that something must be wrong with you. Maybe I'm just an overthinker. Maybe my brain is wired differently. Maybe I'll never find peace. But what if I told you? The problem isn't that you have too many thoughts. The problem is that you've been taught to believe every thought deserves your attention. Imagine sitting beside the ocean. The waves rise. The waves fall. Some are small. Some are powerful. Would you try to stop the waves? Of course not. You know that's impossible. You simply watch them. Your mind works in much the same way. Thoughts appear, not because you consciously choose every single one. A sound, a memory, a smell, a feeling. A single moment can give birth to dozens of thoughts before you even notice what's happening. And just like waves, thoughts disappear when the conditions that created them begin to fade. The strange thing is that we rarely let them disappear on their own. Instead, we grab them. A thought appears. What if I fail? Then another thought immediately follows. Why did I think that? What does that say about me? Am I becoming anxious? What if this feeling never goes away? One thought becomes 5. 5 become 50. And before long, we've completely forgotten the original thought. We're no longer observing the waves. We're drowning in them. This is why overthinking feels so overwhelming. Not because thoughts are powerful, but because we keep feeding them with more thoughts. We believe that if we just think a little harder, we'll finally solve uncertainty. We'll finally control life. We'll finally feel safe. But has that ever really happened? Has one more hour of worrying ever guaranteed tomorrow? Has one more night of replaying conversations ever changed the past? Probably not. Yet we keep trying. Because somewhere deep inside, we quietly believe that thinking equals control. And that's one of the biggest illusions our minds create. Now here's something even more surprising. Most people think peace comes from having fewer thoughts. But that's not how the mind works. Have you ever sat quietly for just 1 minute and noticed that thoughts continue to appear on their own? You didn't invite them. You didn't plan them. One moment you're paying attention to your breathing, and the next you're thinking about lunch, or an email, or someone you haven't seen in years. Where did that thought come from? And more importantly, where did it go? If you don't hold on to it, it simply disappears. Then another one comes, and another. Watching this carefully can completely change the way you see your own mind. Because you begin to realize something simple. Thoughts are events. Not identity. They're something that happens, not something you are. Imagine you're sitting beside a busy road. Cars pass by all day. Some are loud. Some are quiet. Some are beautiful. Some are old and broken. But no matter what kind of car passes, you don't feel the need to chase it. You don't jump into every vehicle that drives by. You simply let it continue on its way. Thoughts deserve the same treatment. Some thoughts are useful. Some are creative. Some remind us to call a friend or finish an important task. But many are nothing more than mental noise, random predictions, old memories, imaginary conversations, endless rehearsals for futures that may never arrive. The problem isn't that these thoughts appear. The problem begins when we believe every passing thought deserves a seat at the table. Have you ever noticed how one small feeling can create an entire story? You wake up feeling slightly uneasy. Within minutes, your mind starts asking, what if something goes wrong today? What if I'm falling behind? What if everyone else has figured life out except me? Nothing actually happened. Only a small feeling appeared, but the mind rushed in to explain it. It created a story, and once the story begins, the thinking rarely stops on its own. This is why trying to solve overthinking by thinking even more almost never works. It's like trying to smooth the surface of a lake. by hitting the water with your hands. Every attempt creates more ripples. For years, I believed I needed to understand every thought. I thought that if I could just discover why each one appeared, I'd finally become peaceful. But I slowly realized something. Every answer created another question. Every explanation became another story. My mind wasn't becoming quieter. It was simply becoming more complicated. That's when I discovered a different approach. Instead of asking, "Why am I thinking this?" I began asking, "Can I simply notice that I'm thinking?" At first it sounded too simple, but something unexpected happened. The moment I noticed a thought, without arguing with it, without following it, without trying to solve it, its grip became weaker. Not because I forced it away, but because I stopped feeding it. It's a little like a campfire. A fire only grows if someone keeps adding wood. Thoughts work in much the same way. Attention is the wood. Every time we replay the story, argue with it, or try to control it, we quietly place another log on the fire. And then we wonder why it keeps burning. What if, just for a moment, you did something different? The next time you notice your mind racing, don't ask it to stop. Don't fight it. Don't judge yourself. Simply smile, if you can, and say quietly, "Ah, there's another thought." Then return your attention to something real. The feeling of your feet touching the ground, the movement of your breath, the weight of your hands, the sounds around you. Not because these things magically erase your thoughts, but because they remind you that life is happening here, not only inside your mind. Try this today, just once, not during a perfect meditation session, not on a quiet weekend, but in the middle of an ordinary day. Maybe while you're waiting for the elevator, or standing in line for coffee, or sitting at a red light. Notice the next thought that appears. Don't finish it. Don't argue with it. Don't analyze where it came from. Just notice it, as if you were watching a cloud drift across the sky. Then gently return to your breath, or the feeling of your feet on the ground, or the simple fact that you're here, alive, present. That's all. It sounds almost too simple. But sometimes the deepest changes begin with the smallest shifts in attention, because every time you notice a thought without becoming lost inside it, something remarkable happens. You discover that there are actually two parts of your experience, the thoughts and the awareness that notices them. The thoughts are always changing. One moment they're hopeful, the next they're fearful. One day they tell you you're doing great. The next they tell you you've failed. They rise, they fall, they contradict themselves. They never stay for long. But the awareness that notices them remains, quietly, patiently. It's been with you your entire life. When you were a child, when you were afraid, when you were excited, when you fell in love, when you experienced loss. Thoughts came and went. Emotions came and went. Even your beliefs changed. Yet something kept witnessing all of it. Maybe peace was never about getting rid of your thoughts. Maybe peace comes from remembering that you are the one watching the waves, not the waves themselves. There's an ancient teaching that completely changed the way I understand the mind. It reminds us that thoughts arise because of countless conditions. A memory, a sound, a feeling, a habit. And just as those conditions come together, they also pass away. The thought doesn't stay because it's who you are. It stays because we keep holding on to it. I learned this from the Buddha. One of the most freeing ideas I've ever encountered is this. You don't have to control every thought. You only have to know that it's a thought. That single realization changes everything. Because the moment you stop treating every thought as the truth, your mind begins to soften. The need to control begins to loosen. The endless conversations inside your head become a little quieter. Not because you've won a battle against your mind, but because you've stopped fighting it. And perhaps that's what freedom really is. Not a silent mind, but a mind you no longer fear. So the next time your thoughts begin to race, remember this. You don't need to stop the waves. You only need to remember that you are the ocean beneath them. Thank you for spending these moments with me. Until next time, may your mind become a little quieter. May your heart become a little lighter, and keep becoming less so you can truly become more.